Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Please let me know in the comment section whether my audio and video is clear or not so that we can have the class in a smooth and continuous manner. I welcome you all to the live mint analysis that we do every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 8 a.m. We discuss the important news articles and we link it with the static portion and we do a few MCQs. Okay. Good morning, Ayushi, Bhakti, Akanksha, Karthik, Tanmay, Souvik. All right. Good morning, Surekha. I hope all of you are doing well. Let's begin with our session. And before that, if you want to download this YouTube class PDF, you can do it from the Oliveboard app. Just go to the courses section and go to the YouTube class PDFs folder. From there, you can download the PDF. Or I will share I'll share this PDF on Telegram if you guys want. You can join over there. Mannat Educator is my Telegram handle. Fine. Chaliye. So what are we going to cover today? Let's take a brief look. First, we are going to talk about antibiotics R&D misuse is in focus. There's something known as antimicrobial resistance. There's some issue known as antimicrobial resistance. We're going to understand what is the meaning of this and why we have this antibiotics R&D in news. Then we're going to talk about this UN report which says that Indian economy likely grew 7.4% in 2025. So we have this report here. We're going to talk about a little details of the report here. Then India plans tougher crypto rules. So for cryptocurrency, we have tough rules here. Why do we have that? We're going to see. And what are the new rules? That also we are going to see over here. Then SBI issues Certificate of Deposits. So SBI na rarely Certificate of Deposits issue karta hai. We're going to understand what Certificate of Deposits are and what was the need for issuing Certificates of Deposit. This is your monetary policy instrument, and that is why this is your basically way of issuing. This certificate of deposit is way of issuing money to the primary market. So dekho, there are two types of financial markets. One is your money market, one is your capital market. Okay? And under capital market, we have your primary market and we have your secondary market. ठीक है, तो इस मनी मार्केट के अंदर वन इज योर सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ डिपॉजिट. ठीक है, सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ डिपॉजिट एक वे है थ्रू विच यू कैन इशू मनी. ठीक है, दिस इज योर मनी मार्केट. तो वो वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट दिस इज. देन गवर्नमेंट पुश फॉर बैटरी स्टोरेज. तो यहाँ पे हम देखेंगे कैसे हाउ सोलर एंड विंड एनर्जी, because there is lack of storage, because there is lack of battery energy storage systems, a lot of this energy that we are generating, we are not able to store it, and this is being sold at very, very cheap prices in the market. That we're going to see what is the problem. Then we're going to talk about what merchant banks are. There's a news related to merchant banks and new rules related to merchant banks that we're going to see. There's a few fact-based news, and at last we'll do some MCQ practice. Okay? Good morning, Sixth Sense. Chalo, let's start our session here. Antibiotics R&D misuse is in focus. Can anybody tell me what is the meaning of antimicrobial resistance? Does anybody have an idea as to what is the meaning of antimicrobial resistance? This is a very common problem which has been found in the individuals today. Any idea, anybody, what is the meaning of antimicrobial resistance? Antibiotic related any kind of development, any kind of sale is being monitored. It is being monitored. Why? Because there are rising cases of antimicrobial resistance. Good morning, good morning. Resistance against microbial infection due to overuse of antibiotics. Yes, overuse of antibiotics leading to resistance. Exactly. The problem in India is now we don't use antibiotics or we don't use medicines for cure purposes, but we start using it for preventing. मुझे cold ना हो जाए, so I'm going to take up a medicine. I'll start my antibiotics. what happens is that for every minor inconvenience also na, we start taking medicines, that also without consulting the doctor. What is happening, that because of consumption of a lot of antibiotics, our body is becoming resistant to any kind of medicine. Have you ever heard this thing? Once you consume a lot of a particular medicine, say you are very prone to stomach ache, so you maybe consume one particular medicine for every whenever you feel stomach ache and all, you start consuming that medicine. Over a period of time, you see that that medicine stops working for you, and you will have to switch on to some other salt or some other medicine. What is that? That is something known as antimicrobial resistance only. When the medicine that you consume a lot, it stops responding to your body. It start because your body becomes so habitual of that particular medicine, because your body has detected ki acha, this is a medicine, this is not wrong. When you consume it so often, your body says ki acha, this is a medicine, this is something which this person is consuming a lot, that means this is not very harmful, I need to stop acting against it, है ना? So when these, so your body accepts कि अच्छा this is here, we don't need to really respond. Your body stops responding or stops showing results with that particular medicine, है ना? My mother suffered from easy bruisability due to frequent consumption of painkillers. Exactly, that is what my point is. So when the medicines stop working on your body, that is known as antimicrobial resistance. And this has been found in almost every individual in our country. And that is why we are bringing in such important changes, rules. Good morning, Jaya. Fine. So there's been a strict ban on OTC antibiotic sales. OTC antibiotic sales मतलब over the counter, when you are not when the doctor is not prescribing and आप अपने आप से जाके doctor बन के you are going to take your medicines that way. ठीक है, improved regulatory approvals, tracking software models. We have this a high level drugs consultative committee is being formed, which is going to submit recommendations related to this. So this is a global health threat as of now, antimicrobial resistance. हर कोई डॉक्टर है इंडिया में, वो भी हाँ ठीक है. तो this antimicrobial resistance is a global health threat. So this is becoming a problem. So this widespread misuse, especially over the counter, people are buying it without any prescription. Over the counter matlab when you don't have any prescription and you're just taking it from the chemist, that is not going to be allowed now. Okay, so whenever somebody is going to focus on self medication or incomplete dosage, and then in that case regulatory oversight is going to be increased, because WHO estimates that antimicrobial resistance, it could cause 10 million deaths annually by the year 2050 if it is unchecked. Okay, fine. So these are some key concepts that you can go through later on. I wanted to explain you the concept of antimicrobial resistance, which is a global health concern over here. I hope that you guys have understood what this is. Okay. Next news is related to this UN report. This report says that India grew 7.4% in 2025, according to this particular report. Fine. So in 7.4% in 2025. Why? What were the positives of this growth? Because of good consumption. Our consumption spending was good. And why would you say consumption spending was good? You can say that GST was rationalized, income tax rate cuts we saw. Then RBI brought in monetary policy, easy monetary policy, for example, reducing the repo rate and all, है ना? Because of which cash in hand with the people increased, disposable income with the people increased, and they started consuming more. So the consumption spending increased. Secondly, there was strong public investment also. So we have seen in the previous live analysis also now that public capital expenditure has increased. So both of these are very, very important. So if you see AD is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. When we know that government expenditure has increased, investment has increased, consumption has increased, then obviously aggregate demand will increase, economic growth will increase. That is why we are seeing a robust economic growth. That is why we have seen this data over here, है ना? Fine. So India's growth 2026 is projected at 6.6%. 2026 के लिए it is projected 6.6%. See, such kind of data is important because this data can directly be quoted in your exam and directly be asked in the examination. ठीक है, UN revised India's 2025 growth from 6.3 to 7.4%. Global growth is expected at 2.8% in 2026 and 2.9% in 2027. So these can be directly quoted in your question and it can be asked. Fine. So this is this World Economic Situation and Prospect report. This is an annual publication. Annually this is presented. Okay? You should know about this publication also. India is one of the fastest growing major economies. Reason is because of public capital expenditure, domestic consumption, services sector showed resilience. Obviously risks are there like US tariffs, global geopolitical tensions, global trade and all, but still we have seen a good growth. Okay, here are some concepts mentioned which is your real GDP here, which means when you are subtracting inflation from nominal GDP, when you account for inflation out of nominal GDP, it is known as real GDP. Then monetary easing. Monetary easing means easy monetary policy, or you can say expansionary monetary policy. When you're trying to increase the money supply in the economy, public investment, when the government is incurring expenditure, that is known as public investment, है ना, capital expenditure. The World Economic Prospect Report is released by UNDESA and it is released on an annual basis. You need to remember this, ठीक है? हाँ जी, ये report आप पढ़ लीजिएगा. This is also important. इसमें से इसी type का कुछ data is going to be important, ठीक है? Fine. चलिए next important news is related to your crypto rules. Crypto rules से related we have a news over here. Let's check it out. Government is trying to plan कि 1st April से we are going to apply tough crypto rules. Problem क्या है? There is a mismatch in the tax data. There's a mismatch in the tax data because of which now we are going to scrutinize more on these crypto related transactions. ठीक है? In around more than 4500 virtual digit asset cases we saw कि जो tax data है that is not matching. That means somewhat tax evasion is going on, some ghapla is going on through these crypto transactions. ठीक है? So now there's going to be a mandatory third party reporting which is going to be proposed for banks and crypto exchanges. That means you have to report to a third party. Whatever transactions you're doing, a third party is going to be involved. ठीक है? CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, is framing the rules as of now and हमें ये notifications मिलने वाले हैं. यहाँ पे section 285 BAA के बारे में बात की है, which is added to the Income Tax Act for reporting compliance. So which section is added? Directly it can be asked. Section 285 BAA has been added to the Income Tax Act, or it is going to be added to the Income Tax Act for reporting and all, for reporting of such crypto transactions. For such crypto transactions, we are going to have rules. We are going to have rules, regulations soon. ठीक है? हाँ, but we have some, see, crypto ऐसे तो, we don't have a proper regulation for cryptocurrencies and all. There is no proper regulation. I mean, it is not even illegal, but it is not even legal. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. है ना? But obviously, the government recognizes that people do trade in cryptocurrencies. It is not illegal or something. है ना? है ना? So, but now, but for reporting and all, for reporting of your money that you earn from crypto and all, you had to do that. But now we have seen a tax data mismatch, so now we are going to have more rules. ठीक है? So which section has been added? Section 285 BAA has been added to Income Tax Act for reporting any kind of compliance. ठीक है? This will be effective from April 2026. ठीक है, everyone? So what is happening is that there we saw tax data mismatches in more than 4500 virtual digital asset case, because of which now there are going to be rules. For example, mandatory third party reporting. Then CBDT is forming the rules, framing the rules. We have section 285 BAA under the Income Tax Act, which is going to be added for compliance, for reporting compliance. ठीक है? So we know what cryptocurrencies are. They operate in a borderless and anonymous ecosystem. So it is very difficult to regulate the cryptocurrencies, and because of that, taxation is very hard. Fine. So government had introduced this VDA taxation, virtual digital asset taxation in 2022. In budget 2022, tax was levied on such virtual digital assets like cryptocurrencies. 30% direct tax, 1% TDS, and GST applicability. On the services, depending on the service category, GST was applicable. Please learn and remember this also. 2022 में budget 2022 में this was introduced. 30% direct tax, 1% TDS, GST applicability. But there is an issue with the compliance gap. There is no regulation. There is lack of standardized reporting. The people use foreign platforms and they can evade taxes easily. That is what we saw. Tax evasion was happening a lot. Now this has to be resolved. For that we have this particular news. For this we have this particular news. ठीक है, virtual digital asset मतलब जैसे your cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the blockchain and all, है ना? Section 285 BAA, it mandates banks plus exchanges to report such transactions to the government. CBDT, you know. So this is what the news is about. So new rules you're going to get related to cryptocurrency. ठीक है? SBI raises 6,000 crore in rare certificate of deposit issue. Can anybody tell me what are certificate of deposits? Anybody? Dekho, there when we talk about types of financial markets, I'm sure you guys have heard it and studied it in your finance section. There are two types of financial markets: your money market and we have your capital market, right? Money market is wherein you can issue money, you can raise money for a short period of time for less than 1 year, right? And capital market transactions are for more than 1 year, when you can issue money for more than 1 year. Capital market can be divided into primary market and secondary market. Primary market and secondary market. Primary market is the new issue market, जहाँ पे securities are going to be issued for the first time, and secondary market when you trade in those existing securities, है ना? So one of the money market instrument is certificate of deposit through which one can raise money. So financial institutions, banks and all, they can raise money from 7 days up to 1 year. They can raise money through this particular route. So certificate of deposits are money market instruments. ठीक है? Money market instruments. Now SBI has raised 6,000 crore in rare CD issue as liquidity titans. अब क्या problem है? Usually, last time that this SBI had used this particular certificate of deposit for raising money was in 2022, I guess. है ना? Last was in 2022 or I think 2024. बहुत rarely SBI issues the certificate of deposits, and this has become a sign as to stress in the banking sector. Stress related to what? Liquidity issues. So liquidity is one of the most important criteria that the banks have to have. Now we are seeing a liquidity crunch in the banking system. Now what is the signal? The certificate of deposit issuances was a signal related to this. Okay? So 6,000 crore worth certificate of deposits have been issued. What is the rate that SBI has offered? 6%. Okay? What is the reason, and what does this particularly indicate? That there are tight liquidity conditions and there is a pressure on banks. Now what is the major reason for this? See, deposit growth is less. That means people are depositing less money, but credit growth is high. This can also be attributed to the reduction in the repo rate. We can see, because the repo rate was reduced, so people have started borrowing a lot. So they have taken more loans because now they were getting loans at a cheaper rate. Banks also got loan at a cheaper repo rate from RBI, and now the individuals have also started taking loans from banks because they're getting at a lower rate of interest. So loan taking has increased a lot, but as proportion, in proportion to this credit or the loan taking, people are not depositing enough money because consumption spending, investment spending and all is happening. Rates have reduced. Obviously, see, when your rate of interest reduces, people take more loans and deposit less money. That is what they take more loans and deposit less money. So this leads to liquidity crunch in the banking system. That is what we are seeing a problem over here, and that is why SBI resorted to issuing certificate of deposit. Okay, other banks are also participating, like Union Bank of India, SEBI, and they are also issuing certificate of deposits. Fine. Banking system liquidity has reduced. It is only 80,134 crore in surplus, reduced from before. So there is high credit demand, slower deposit growth, and there are regulatory changes also, because of which now they are issuing certificate of deposit. Okay? Certificate of deposit as an instrument is very, very important, everyone. Okay? Please study the other instruments also. Your homework is that all other instruments of money market you are going to study. Okay, you please let me know in the comment section. Tell me in the comment section what other money market instruments are there. What other money market instruments are there that you remember? One is certificate of deposit. Write down in the comment section and tell me what are the other money market instruments. What do you guys remember? What is the other route through which money can be raised in the money market? Because यहाँ पे certificate deposit is a short term money market instrument. It is issued by banks and financial institutions. The tenor is from 7 days to 1 year. Risk level is low here, and there is no premature withdrawal. Okay, it can be traded in the secondary market also later on. Yes, Sureka, commercial bill, very good. So other money market instruments are commercial bill, very good. We have treasury bills, T-bills, treasury bills. Anybody else? What else? What other instruments are there in the money market through which you can raise money? Sureka has given me the answer here. Liquidity crunch means when banks struggle to meet the short-term funding needs. Treasury bills, commercial paper, okay. We have commercial paper also. Call money, very good. We have call money market. इसी में we can see notice money market. इसी में we can see term money market, है ना? Notice money, term money, call money, commercial papers. Bonds are part of your debt market. Bonds are not issued. Bonds क्या होते हैं? Long term in nature. So you usually take bonds in the capital market. These are debt instruments. ठीक है? Your debt instruments are part of the capital market. Okay, Akash? Capital market का होते हैं. These are only short term. Less than 1 year अगर होगा, that is going to be a part of this. ठीक है? Fine. Then merchant banks in SEBI squeeze as new rules kick in. Now, can anybody tell me what is the meaning of merchant banks? What is the meaning of merchant banks? Or what is merchant banking? Merchant banking. What is the meaning of merchant banking? Is anybody aware of this? Write down in the comment section and tell me what are merchant banks. SEBI has implemented stricter rules for these merchant banks, and these are going to be effective from this year, January. Please learn these, whatever we are going to do in today's session over here related to this merchant banks. Please learn the new criteria, learn the new rules. These are very important. Okay? Now these merchant bankers, we are going to divide them into two categories. Category 1 and category 2. Okay, merchant banks are going to be classified into two categories, category 1 and category 2. Based on what? Based on their net worth. So if your net worth is up to 25 crore, you can say more than 25 crore, you will be part of category 1. If your net worth is between 7.5 crore, or you can say up to 7.5 crore, then you will be 7.5 to 10 crore, then you will be considered in category 2. Okay? SEBI has introduced minimum revenue mandate. There has to be a minimum revenue for these merchant banking. Okay? They can now participate in capital market issuances also, not just advisory. So वो सिर्फ advisory वाला काम नहीं करेंगे. They can be a part of the capital market also. Their underwriting exposure capped at 20 times the net worth. So whatever is your net worth, your underwriting exposure. Underwriting का क्या मतलब होता है? When you are providing underwriting services, like which underwriting services are when you help in issuing IPO and all, that is underwriting service, है ना? So underwriting is basically you help in issuing the IPO, and if say you are issuing 100 shares and only 50 have been subscribed, so this underwriter has to buy those 50 shares. I hope you know all of this. This is a part of your finance section. I hope you've covered it, है ना? 20 times your net worth, the exposure, your exposure to underwriting can be 20 times the net worth. Okay? Then staffing governance norms have also been tightened. Outsourcing is barred. So for providing such service, if you outsource from someone else, किसी और को आपने रखा है वो service देने के लिए, that is not going to be allowed. Fine. And merchant bankers, they will employ NISM Series 9 certified professionals. What is the certificate? Let's see in the next few slides. Okay? In phases till January 2028, this is going to be levied. So what was happening before? Let's understand what merchant banker is. The merchant banker is a SEBI registered intermediary. So it is an intermediary. It is registered under SEBI. What all activities does a merchant banker perform? It helps in IPO management, helps in right issues, underwriting, mergers and acquisition related, M&A related advisory, debt issuances, due diligence. These are the activities performed by merchant banker. Fine. What was happening is that most of these merchant banks now they become inactive. They became almost inactive, and they were majorly earning from this advisory portion. Only from advisory. In fact, it has to do a lot of these activities. All of these activities are part of merchant banking, but it was only providing advisory services. So majorly the work of merchant banking was becoming very stagnant. They became very inactive. Okay? So this created risk concentration, weak participation in the capital markets. Risk was, it was being concentrated in this case. So SEBI aims to deepen the merchant banking participation, regulate the balance sheet risk, improve investor confidence, and that is why these rules are being brought in. Okay? Underwriting exposure cap, I hope I have explained you what it is. When you are doing underwriting, when you are helping in IPO issuances, your exposure can be 20 times the net worth. Usse zyada nahi. Whatever is your net worth, 20 times that net worth your exposure can be. Okay? Fine. NISM certification. This is basically merchant banking certification. So you have to only employ such staff which is competent. So whatever people you are employing, they have to be competent. They have to have this particular certificate. So these were the important news articles from the newspaper which we had to do in detail. I hope that the meaning of merchant banking is clear to all of you. Merchant banking, I hope, is clear to all of you. Okay? Let's do a few fact-based news now. For example, first over here, you might have gone through the news related to Venezuela. We had discussed about this Venezuelan crisis before also. And you might have seen that in Venezuela, the US sanctions have been removed. US sanctions have been removed now. So, ab dekho, Venezuela is it has the largest reserves of oil. It has the largest reserves of oil. And Venezuela was under US sanctions for a lot of time, because of which there were problems in Venezuela. So it was seen that if the US removes its sanctions, then Venezuela will start producing oil, and then there is going to be surplus oil in the market, which is going to reduce the prices. Obviously, yahi hota hai. When you start producing more, Venezuela till now was not able to produce and we were not able to sell. But now when the US sanctions are going to be removed, obviously Venezuela will be able to sell more and produce more oil. So obviously when the supply is going to be more, prices are going to be less. हमें पता है, this was a the economists and the different people, they saw that they feared that ekdam se there is going to be a glut of oil in the market and prices are going to drop. But this actually did not happen. This actually did not happen. Even after removing the US sanction, the oil supply did not increase and the price shock was not seen. And we have seen this in the previous class also, that the major reason behind this, we discussed now, the major reason behind this is that yes, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves, but the capacity has not been utilized as of now. There is lack of infrastructure. There is no means of producing that oil. The oil fields will take years to start off the oil fields again. Even after putting up US sanctions, still there was no impact on the global economy. This was seen. This is what this news is about. Because so despite this regime change in Venezuela, global crude oil prices remained in that particular range only. Venezuela has huge oil reserves, and it was seen that it might create a supply glut, but it did not create. So oil prices were supposed to crash, but they did not crash. What was the major reason? There is underinvestment, poor infrastructure, supply issues in Venezuela, low demand in 2026. IEA, International Energy Agency, expects low demand growth in 2026. Okay? So it was seen that the oil prices could drop $50 per barrel in 2026. But Venezuela, even after the sanctions, there was no increase in the oil growth because of all those problems like underinvestment and all. Okay? So Venezuela, this data is important here. Why Venezuela matters over here is because it has 304 billion barrels of oil reserves, which is the largest in the world. Okay? If US has lifted sanctions, now Venezuela will be able to export up to 50 million barrels to the US. And it usually what happens is this increases the supply obviously and reduces the prices. But this did not happen in this case because these reserves are not really present. Okay, fine. Then we have this small, there's nothing to study over here, but subsidies share in total expenditure lowest in 25 years. See, what is important over here is that if we compare from the previous years, subsidies in financial year 25 reduced a lot, and these were the lowest as compared to other years. In financial year 26, you can see 8.4 from the previous year, which was 9.1. Okay? See, subsidies, these are unproductive expenditure. Unproductive expenditure. There are two types of expenditure. One is your productive expenditure and one is your unproductive expenditure. Your productive expenditure hota hai, it is like investment, infrastructure investment and all, building roads and all, which is going to yield you return in the future. That is productive investment, productive infrastructure, or you can say productive expenditure. Unproductive expenditure is like, like a transfer payments or revenue expenditure, which does not yield you income later on. Subsidies is one of the most unproductive kind of expenditure. And if subsidies are reducing, so your unproductive expenditure is reducing, which is going to help you control the fiscal deficit. So this is the positive part. But from the social perspective, from the social welfare perspective, this can be seen as a negative thing. That in an economy like India, which has many lower income and poor people, we have a lot of poor populations, the subsidies are reducing. So from both, it has positives also, that our fiscal deficit or our deficit would reduce, and on the other hand, but for the social aspect, it is a little negative. Okay? Then Trump nod to tariff bill targeting India. So again, now there is this tariff bill against India, so Trump is providing a nod to that. Problem kya hai? Why Trump is against India, why it is going against India, is because India, despite US sanctions, India is still purchasing oil from Russia. That is the major point of contention between the two countries. Yeah, freebies, no, subsidies. Freebies are also kind of subsidies only, yes. Yes, freebies are also kind of subsidies, but freebies, usually they happen, this is also unproductive expenditure only. But freebies usually happen during, say, elections, or free of cost when you're providing everything. Subsidies are usually added as an incentive, or maybe attached to a particular scheme or program. Freebies can be without any scheme program also. That is the major difference between the two. Freebies can be during an election you are giving, or you're providing money free of cost, you're providing food free of cost. So, and subsidies is a more sophisticated word, which is usually related to incentives, and which is usually used in the form of incentives, which is usually attached to some program or scheme. Is that clear? Okay, fine. So US president has cleared a sanctions bill targeting countries that are buying Russian oil. So Trump has passed this bill targeting those countries which are purchasing Russian oil. What does the bill say? That up to 500% tariffs are going to be imposed and secondary sanctions are going to be imposed. Okay? Secondary sanctions are going to be imposed, and up to 500% tariffs are going to be imposed. India, China, Brazil, they are identified as major buyers. Which all countries? India, China, Brazil, major buyers of Russian discounted crude oil. So US already imposes 50% tariffs on India, है ना, including 25% for Russian oil purchases also. So this bill is going to be a very negative aspect over here. Okay? So because because we are purchasing Russian discounted crude oil, so US is bringing in a bill to scrutinize those countries which are bringing it. Okay? What are secondary sanctions? Sanctions on third party countries trading with a sanctioned country. So देखो, एक तो होता है primary sanctions. Primary sanctions are like US has put sanctions on Venezuela. US has directly put sanctions on Venezuela because of Venezuelan problems. Or US has directly put sanctions on Russia because of Russian problems. But secondary sanctions are कि US has imposed sanctions on Russia, है ना? US has imposed sanctions on Russia, and there are other countries which are dealing with Russia. So US is indirectly putting in sanctions on, say, India because it is trading with Russia. That is second. Third party, when you are putting sanctions on third party countries because you are getting in touch with a sanctioned country. Okay? Those are known as secondary sanctions. So primary sanctions when you're directly trying to impact the economy. For example, US doing in Venezuela or US doing in Russia. If US tries to put sanctions on India because India is dealing with a sanctioned country like Russia, that is known as secondary sanction. Okay? Fine. Then there is this SBI report which says that India's economy to grow by 7.5% in financial year 26. Why this is important is, sometimes directly in the MCQ they can ask according to this SBI report by State Bank of India, India's economy is likely, or Indian economy grew by -% in financial year 26. Like that. Okay? Then Goldilocks or distress locked in deflation is hurting rural India. Now, what is this article over here? Very beautiful article over here. You guys can read it also. Here it is written that Sanjay Malhotra ji talked of a Goldilocks period. What is Goldilocks period? We had discussed about what is the meaning of Goldilocks period. Who is going to tell me? Write down in the comment section and tell me what is the meaning of Goldilocks period. What is the meaning of Goldilocks period here? What is considered as a Goldilocks period? Anybody? When your robust growth with moderate inflation, very good. Lower inflation, higher growth, stable and growing economy. When your inflation is low and your growth is also quite high, such kind of a situation is known as a Goldilocks period. But here the author is saying that whether this is a Goldilocks period or are we moving into a deflationary phase. Deflationary phase is when the prices start declining. It is the opposite of inflation. Okay, when the general price level starts reducing, that is a deflationary pressure. This leads to lower demand, lower production, and then hampers the economy. Now this author is saying that whether this controlled inflation, which went even less than the lower band of this range that we have seen of flexible inflation targeting framework. So is it a Goldilocks period or are we facing a deflationary phase? Okay? Especially in food and agriculture. Because if we are seeing a deflation, then this is going to be a very negative thing, and Viksit Bharat wala concept to aap chhod hi do. Wholesale inflation has become negative. Rural income farm sectors are facing stress. Low inflation may mask weak demand. So when inflation is very, very low, what happens is when prices are very, very low, it discourages the producers. The producers reduce their production. If they reduce their production, there's going to be a supply crunch. There's going to be a supply crunch. People are going to reduce their demand and economy will be in a downturn in that case. Okay? So Goldilocks economy is low inflation, steady growth, which is an optimal macro environment. But here the author is saying that what if this is a deflationary trend? So if it is a deflationary trend, it is going to be a negative thing. Okay? Fine. So there are certain terms mentioned, for example, deflation. I hope you have done the types of inflation and all. Usme we do deflation, which is a general decrease in the price level. जैसे inflation is general increase in the price level, so opposite of inflation is deflation, which is a decrease in the general price level. ठीक है, nominal versus real GDP. I have told you real GDP is nominal minus inflation. So when you exclude this inflation, wholesale price index is a way of calculating inflation at the wholesale level. Rural distress matlab when there is low crop prices, rising input costs, stagnant wages. Stagflation risk is that there is going to be stagnant growth, that means unemployment and inflation, high inflation. So there might be a slowdown in future. Okay? Then MSP gap, market prices below MSP, farmers face losses. That is your MSP gap. So यहाँ पे why the author is saying that there might be a stagflation risk. अब आप देखो, if inflation is going to be low, it is going to be benign, it is going to be very low, prices are going to be low, producers are going to be discouraged, they will reduce their production. They will reduce their production. They will, there's going to be a reduction in the supply. If we have to produce more, they are going to lay off the workers also. So unemployment will also increase. Plus, if supply is going to be less and demand is going to be more, if demand will be more than supply, then inflation will start increasing. So problem of unemployment and inflation together, there can be a problem and there can be a situation of stagflation in this scenario. So author is warning that, you might see that, there's going to be stagflation in future. Okay? Then there is this news that crisis brewing as discoms dump green power cheap. So like we have discussed in our previous classes also, yes, the government is bringing up, has brought up a scheme also for increasing the battery energy storage systems. In our country, a major issue is the lack of battery energy storage systems. This is one major hindrance and major problem in India, that we do not have a proper storage system, because of which that is why people were moving towards coal also. That is why coal based energy also increased. And we discussed this, I think, in the previous class, that there is a dilemma कि एक तरफ we want to meet our carbon emission goals and दूसरी तरफ we are producing more energy from coal. But the problem is that even though we are producing renewable energy like solar and wind, green power supply is rising, but India's ability to store that is not there. We are not able to store it, we are not able to manage it. And that is why this solar and wind energy, it is being sold at a loss to the distribution companies, to the discoms. We are selling it at a loss. Ultimately, this is going to discourage these renewable energy producers, and we are not going to be able to meet our carbon emission goals, hai na? Aise to, if you see, if I'm not getting the right price for my product, if I'm producing renewable energy and I'm not able to store it, I'm not able to sell it, I'm not able to sell it at a higher rate, then obviously I will not produce it next time. Real time market electricity prices crashed to 0 per unit, you can see here, last year. Discoms are accumulating heavy financial loss. Okay, solar capacity has rapidly expanded, 43% growth in 5 years, but there is a mismatch because storage capacity is not only there. There is a need for a battery energy storage system. There is proper need of battery energy storage systems. And that is why government is also focusing on this. Okay? So I hope this is clear. This was all related to your important news articles. I will share the PDF with all of you on Telegram. Anybody who's new here, you can connect with me on Telegram. Just type Mannat Educator. You will have access to my Telegram. Okay? I hope that all of these news were clear. We have done some news in detail. I hope you have understood the meaning of many things in this particular session. This is how you have to study. Let's do a few MCQs. First question, you have to match the following. Okay? We have AMR, which is antimicrobial resistance. CDSU, which is an organization. Okay? OTC sales, DCC. And on right hand side, we have drug resistance due to misuse, National Drug Regulator, sale without prescription, advisory committee for CDSCO. Match these and give me the answer, all of you. Quickly. Jaya, Bhakti, Sodamini, Surekha, True Expanse, Ayushi, Six Sense, Sharma ji ka beta, Karthik, Tanmay, Souvik, Akanksha. What is the answer? देखो, antimicrobial resistance is a drug resistance due to misuse. बिल्कुल ठीक. So 1 का हो जाएगा A. Second, CDSCO is the National Drug Regulator. B. OTC sale without prescription, absolutely correct. And 4, DCC is the advisory committee. So A, B, C, D, your answer should be A, B, C, D. D should be your answer. Okay, so all of these are matched exactly same. Okay, now assertion reason question. First, assertion. The UN revised India's 2025 GDP growth estimate from 6.3 to 7.4%. India experienced strong domestic consumption, robust public investment. So A and R are true. R is the correct explanation of A. A, R true. R is not the correct explanation of A. A true, R false. A false, R true. Question number 2. Question number 2. What is the answer? So first statement is absolutely correct. 6.3 से revised to 7.4%. Absolutely correct. And for next year 6.6% has been projected, है ना? According to this report. Reason is because domestic consumption was good, है ना? यही देखा था हमने. Consumption increase we saw कि because of tax, income tax rate cuts, GST rationalization, and then repo rate cut and all. And public investment was also good. Capital expenditure is good. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Third question, which provision was inserted into the Income Tax Act to mandate reporting of VDA transactions, virtual digital asset transactions, section 56, section 206C 1H, section 285 BAA, section 80C. The ऐसे question will be asked in the examination. Which section has been inserted here? ठीक है? हाँ जी, what is the answer? Very good. Section 285 BAA. है ना? ठीक है? C is the correct answer. Which of the following correctly describes certificate of deposit? Equity instruments issued by commercial banks, short-term negotiable instruments issued by banks to mobilize funds, RBI issued securities within a minimum maturity of 3 years, derivative contracts traded on stock exchanges. Question number 4. Right. Short-term negotiable instruments issued by banks to mobilize funds, and 3 years is not the maturity period. It is less than 1 year, 7 days to 1 year. Okay? And these are not equity instruments. Okay? These are not equity instruments. These are a way of raising money through the money market. है ना? And derivative contracts भी नहीं है ये, which are traded on stock exchanges. No. Then, okay, match the columns. Category 1, merchant bankers, underwriting exposure cap, NISM series 9, outsourcing ban. Minimum 25 crore net worth, 20 times the liquid net worth, merchant banking certification, effective April 2026. Question number 5. Match the following. Question number 5. Match the following. Question number 5. A, B, Bhakti Singh, B. The correct answer is A over here. देखो, category 1 merchant bankers की कितनी limit है? Minimum 25 crore net worth. Category 2 में क्या था? 7.5 to 10 crore minimum net worth, है ना? So first is your A only. First is A. Underwriting exposure cap is 20 times in liquid net worth. Absolutely correct. So second का हो गया B. NISM series 9 is merchant banking certification. तो इसमें ये कहा था कि you have to employ personnel or you have to employ people who are having this particular certificate. So C over here. Fourth, outsourcing ban is effective from 2026. So D, A, B, C, D. So इसका answer is also A here. Which of the following best explains why crude oil prices ignored the Venezuela supply shock? High demand in China and EU, supply glut and Venezuela poor output infrastructure, US banning Venezuelan oil imports, decline in EV usage globally. Which of the following best explains why crude oil prices ignored Venezuela supply shock? हाँ है ना, because there was a because of Venezuela's poor output infrastructure, the infrastructure is not good, investment and all public investment is not good. The US currently imposes a -% tariff on India, including a -% levy related to Russian oil. 50-25? हाँ ये मैंने पहले भी पढ़ाया था, राइट. 50-25, 70-25, 50-20, 80-15. Question number 7. Currently कितना % tariff है on India, including a -% tariff related to Russian oil? Yes, 50-25. तो 50% है tariff on India, जिसमें से 25% is Russian oil, है ना? Low inflation in India may not necessarily indicate a healthy economy, assertion. Because falling prices can reflect weak demand and declining rural income. Both A and R are true. R explains A. R does not explain A. A true, R false. A false, R true. Question number 8. क्या है first? Low inflation in India may not necessarily indicate a healthy economy. कि क्या inflation, if this is low, does it mean that there is a healthy economy? यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं no, it does not mean it's a healthy economy. Why? Because falling prices can reflect weak demand and declining rural incomes. Absolutely correct. A is true. बिल्कुल ठीक. ये वाला Goldilocks वाला, this is basically your Goldilocks वाला article. And that even though inflation is controlled, that doesn't mean healthy economy is healthy. ठीक है? Which of the following best explains the crisis of green slowdown discussed in the news? Renewable energy is growing slower than coal capacity. Generation of solar energy exceeds ability to store or absorb it into the grid. Discoms are shutting down renewable plants due to high pollution. Import of renewable technology have fallen sharply. Why are we talking about a green slowdown? We have discussed this article. Question number 9. That we are generating good amount of solar and wind energy. The capacity is good. But the problem is with the battery energy storage system. You are not able to store it, and that is why we are selling it at a cheaper rate. So the answer is B. Generation of solar energy exceeds ability to store or absorb it. Right? Consider the following statement. CD yields increase due to liquidity tightening. Certificate of Deposit yields increased due to liquidity tightening. CDs can be issued for a maximum tenure of 1 year by banks. CDs are offered to retail customers with lock-in withdrawal penalties. 1 and 2 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. Certificate of Deposit yield. What is the answer for question number 10? The correct answer is A, 1 and 2 only. So yes, CD yields increase due to liquidity tightening, and 1 year is the maximum period, but not offered to retail customers with lock-in withdrawals. Nahi. So this is issued by financial institutions and banks. Okay. Fine. So that is all from my side, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope that this session was fruitful for all of you. You guys can connect with me beyond these sessions. This is my Telegram handle here, Mannat Educator. Just type Mannat Educator. You will have access to my Telegram account. Is everything clear or not, everyone? Just let me know in the comment section. Then we'll end the session here. I hope that this session was helpful for all of you. I hope you guys understood how to read the newspaper and how to go about with all of this. Okay? Can RBI prevent deflationary phase? Abhi, see, this is an article. Abhi, we have not yet, this has not yet been declared that yes, we are in a deflationary phase. It has not been declared that, this deflation is a negative thing. But yes, of course, this can be controlled. If you see here, inflation is controlled. That is why government is, or RBI is increasing the money supply in the economy. It will further try to increase the money supply in the economy. है ना? So through that deflation can be corrected. Okay, find true expense. Thank you, Bhakti, Jaya. Thank you so much, guys. Tanmay, Surekha. Okay, Ayushi. Thank you so much. Is it clear? RBI can prevent the deflationary phase, obviously, by increasing the money supply, and that it is already doing. Fine? Chalo. So, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. I will see you all in my next one. Till then, keep studying. Wish you best of luck. Bye-bye.